Hi, this is Nicolas Pavlov. This is the first lecture on the optional course on advanced nonlinear physics. And it deals with some aspects of linear and nonlinear wave equations. First, let me indicate some bibliography. I really like the two first books, the one by Witham and the one by Logan. The third one is more anecdotic. It deals with traffic flow models, and it's very nice in that aspect, but it's much less general than the two first. And also let me indicate that there is a website dedicated to the first part of the course, the one I'm teaching, and it's indicated here. If you click on it on the PDF file, you have access to it. So let's first consider the simplest linear equation, D'Alembert's equation, which describes, for instance, the displacement of a deformation of a string. So consider a string between A and B attached at A, and on B, it's subject to a constant tension, T naught Ex. And consider a deformation of this string where the transverse deformation at point X is denoted by U of X and T. It's a function of X, of course, and of time. And assuming that the derivative du dx is small compared to 1, I will call it U sub X. Okay, it's mathematician notation. Assuming that the modulus of this U sub X, which is dimensionless, is much smaller than 1, the equation governing the dynamics of the string is D'Alembert equation, this one. Second derivative of U with respect to time is equal to C square, second derivative of U with respect to position, where C is the square root of T naught mu naught. T naught is a tension, and mu naught is a linear mass density of the string. Okay, and you should have, I guess you've seen this equation before. And if not, you can check on the handwritten notes how it can be established for the string, in the case of the string. Yes, so let me write it in this way. So, I mean, this is obviously equivalent to the previous one. And this can be factorized like that. Sure. Now, this factorization suggests to define new variables, psi, x minus ct, and eta, x plus ct. And let's consider u as a function of psi and eta, no longer of x and t. Now, the time derivative of something, if this something is now expressed in terms of psi and eta, is d something d eta dt, plus d something of d psi dt. I mean, that's the chain rule for the relation. And this d eta dt, from there, it's clear that it's c. Instead, d psi dt, it's clear it's minus c. So we get this expression. Doing the same for x leads to this expression. And now, if you combine both, like here, dt plus cdx, for instance, dt plus cdx, well, you have cd eta plus cd eta, and these two guys will cancel. So remains 2cd eta. And instead, if you combine like that, you get minus 2c d psi. So in terms of psi and eta, D'Alembert's equation, which is here, reads simply minus 4c square factorizes out. The second derivative with respect to psi and eta, or the cross derivative with respect to psi and eta, is 0. And the general solution is very simple then, is the sum of a function of eta and a function of psi. So in terms of x and t, it's just a function of x plus ct plus another function of x minus ct. And the first brown component, f, propagate to the left with the velocity c. Instead, the blue one, the second one, propagates to the right, again with velocity c, in the opposite direction, and both without deformation. These two guys, they don't change the shape. And in general, it's relatively easy to show that f and g, which up to now were unknown, can be expressed in terms of the initial shape of the string, u of x at t equals 0, and of its time derivative, ut of x at t equals 0. And for instance, in the simple case where this ut is 0 and u of x is a given function u naught of x, one gets for f and g, f equals g equals 1/2 of u naught. And it's in this case, the check is easy. You plug that into here. So of course, it's a solution of D'Alembert. And one just needs to check that it fulfills the initial condition. So for instance, at t equals 0, one gets indeed u naught. And if you derive with respect to t, this gives plus cf prime, here minus c g prime. And since f and g are equal, their derivatives are also, and at t equals 0, this guy cancel when they sum up, and you get that also. So this solution fulfills the initial condition. And just let's see how it behaves. So you have here the initial u naught of x at t equals 0, and then it splits in two parts of half height. One propagates to the left with velocity minus c, and one to the right with velocity plus c. So we know anything about this D'Alembert equation. For a given initial condition, we can give the solution. Now we want to make it nonlinear, but before making it nonlinear, we will simplify it. So this equation is linear. I didn't insist on that, but of course, if you have a given solution u1 and another solution u2, the sum of it is also a solution. And it's bidirectional. I mean, this has been said already, and it's non-dispersive. It means you have a propagation without deformation. So before turning to the nonlinear problem, let's remove this bidirectional character. Let's make it simple by only keeping one of the two here derivatives. So for instance, keep one of them, say the first one. You see, let's keep only the first one here. And write the equation ut plus c ux equals 0. And if c were a constant, that would be a simplified version of D'Alembert, and the solution will be simply not the brown one, but only simply the blue one here. Easy to check. X minus ct. But now c is a function of u. Assume that c is a function of u, and this is a nonlinear effect. This equation is sometimes known as the nonlinear advection equation. And it can be used as model of several phenomenon. For instance, flood waves. I'll put on the website a discussion of that. But the situation where it is most accurate, although simplified, is the traffic flow model. So consider cars moving along a road, and rho would be the linear car density along this road. So rho is the number of cars per unit length at position x and time t. And let's denote the flux as q. So it's the flow rate, it's the number of cars per unit time that pass at x and at time t. And the conservation of the number of cars is given by this equation there, which is really equivalent to the conservation of charge, for instance, in electrodynamics. It's d rho dt plus dxq equals 0. And let us prove it rapidly. So consider the number of cars in a segment between x and x plus delta x. Okay, let's call this number n. And now compute the derivative of n with respect to t, so which is the rate of change of the number of cars. So you can compute it simply by d dt of the number of cars. And the number of cars, by the definition of rho, it's this quantity. Okay. And so if this guy changes, if the number of cars changes, this is because there is a net flux in the segment. So it's because, for instance, this is the number of cars entering at x, and these are the number of cars leaving at x plus dx. So if these two quantities are not equal, they don't balance, and indeed, the number of cars in the segment change. So one has this identity there, and take the limit where delta x goes to 0. So this guy is simply rho delta x, which I derive, and that will give dt rho times delta x. And this guy here, take first order Taylor expansion, is just minus delta x dq dx. And taking the limit delta x, in the limit where delta x is small. And then delta x factorizes, and this leads to equation 4. Okay, so this is in any traffic flow model, you have to fulfill this equation 4. Now I make a strong assumption. I will assume, as it's written there, that Q, which is the flux, depends on rho only. And it means that it depends on x and t only in as much as rho does. So Q of x and t is Q of rho of x and t. Okay, and if you plug this expression into 4, you get time derivative of rho plus dq d rho times rho sub x equals 0. And dq d rho, I call it C of rho, which can be positive or negative, by the way, we will see that. So indeed, this red equation is of the form of a simplified model just introduced above for mathematical reason. And here it's justified by a simple model of traffic flow where the flux is a function of rho only. Okay, let's continue and see how Q of rho behaves. Okay, so this Q of rho, how should it behave? So according to our assumption, Q is a function of rho only. So Q of rho divided by rho, let me call it V, is a function of rho only. And of course, this V is the velocity of the flow because, I mean, of course, the flux written as rho V means that V is the velocity of the flow. So this V depends only on rho. But there are some empirical facts about V. First, it is a decreasing function of rho. Of course, when the density of cars increases, the flow decreases, right? And the flow is maximum at rho equals 0. When I'm alone on the road, I drive at high speed. When the number of cars around me increase, I slow down. And eventually, the velocity of the flow cancels at some rho j. And this is, J stands for jam, when you have a traffic jam. And typically, this rho j is of the order of the inverse length of a car. I mean, when the cars are bumper to bumper, of course, you have a jam, and V is 0. So how do typically behave Q, V, and ρ? So let me plot Q, for instance, here, the black curve. So Q is the flux, right? It should be 0 when there is no car, at ρ equals 0. And it should be 0 when the velocity is 0 at ρj. Okay, so these 2 points, it's positive and it behaves roughly like that, like this black curve. Now, on this curve, one can do some geometry to represent V. So consider a given ρ and there, and draw the straight blue line here that goes from 0 to this point. Well, of course, the slope of this curve, of this straight line, is Q divided by ρ. So it's V. Okay, and if I plot how does V behave as a function of ρ, here it's maximum, and then it decreases and reaches 0 here. So this is a plot of V of ρ here, right? One can also represent C, the velocity. Well, C, remember, it's dq d rho. So it's the slope of this red curve here of the tangent. And how does it behave? It's 0 at some rho m. At rho equals 0, it's clear that it coincides with the initial V, and then it's always decreasing, cancel at rho m, and gets negative there, right? Yes, I just want to mention that it's clear that here rho, V and C coincide, because here one has only one car. So remember, V is the velocity of the flow, whereas C is the velocity of propagation of a deformation of a flow, like the deformation of the slope of the string, remember? So here the same. C is the velocity of propagation or deformation of the density. But if I have only one car, both are the same quantity. I mean, the velocity of the flow is also, of my car, is also the velocity of deformation of the density of cars. So of course they coincide initially. One can do some math to check that. So remember, C is dq d rho. It's d of rho v times d rho, because q is rho v. And the derivative of this guy is v plus rho dv d rho. Since we've seen that v is a decreasing function, dv d rho is negative, and c is always lower than v, as on the plot here. And indeed, at rho equals 0, c equals v. So this is the typical behavior expected for the quantities q, v, and c for a traffic flow. And people have measured how they behave. All this started at New York, where they had huge traffic jams under Lincoln Tunnel that goes under the river. What's the name of the river? I forgot. The Hudson. And typically one gets rho j, which is about 140 car per kilometer. This corresponds to separation between two cars, which is 7 meters. So if the driver of the car in front of me is at a distance of 7 meters, I stop. I mean, this corresponds to a jam. Indeed, that's reasonable. Rho m here is obtained which is maximum flux, is obtained for a density of cars which is 50 car per kilometer. So it means the cars are separated by 20 meters, which is not huge. And indeed, it's not huge and natural because the corresponding value of V, which is Q of rho, is only 30 kilometers per hour. So it's quite small, actually. That's the order of magnitude, okay? And all that is a bit sketchy still. There are more effects. I'll discuss an improvement of that at some point. Well, that's it. So now we have our improved equation, or simplified equation, but which takes into account nonlinear effects. And in the next lecture, we learn how to solve it using the so-called method of characteristic, and that's it. I stop the recording.